Check, check, check. Test, test, test. 1, 2, 1, 2.
I right email address now?
Where's he driving?
So, okay, I took your other one out of contacting here, so. Yeah.
So it's a little bit of emails go.
Well, to go through all that.
Jim, are we ready?
I'll,
Who's had that good? This is the guy you should have doing something. Or we could go on too far and I forget.
Thank you.
I'll ask you something. Did we ever sponsor an ad for the dam? Skips, water ski show? That on Facebook, I don't know, but.
Okay, I'm going to call the meeting to order. It is 5 o'clock by my watch. 5:02 by that clock, so. And we'll call the meeting to order, or let the minutes reflect that all board members are here. I need a motion to approve the regular, the meeting agenda, the regular meeting minutes of 6/19, the June 2025 committee meetings. That would be the board meeting on the 18th with the Excel Energy, the 6/26 Water Quality Committee meeting, the 7/2 Boat and Safety meeting, and the 7/8 Audit Committee.
I'll make a motion to do that.
Here,
I'll make a motion to approve all those meeting minutes that Al talked about.
do I
I'll
have?
second it.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any discussion or corrections? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Recognition of visitors and visitor comments. We recognize you as visitors. Does anybody want to make a comment? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on. Commissioner communication. Does anybody have anything that they want to communicate other than what's in their committee reports and things like that? The only thing, I have two things to communicate. One is Tom and I attended what would it be, bi-monthly? It's every other.
Yep.
Bi-monthly meeting of the Red Cedar Water Quality Committee. As always, it was a good discussion. The nice thing is it's got everything from large farmers to DNR to everybody else. It was a good discussion as always. Again, centering on water quality and what's going on. Tom, I looked at it back and I did not provide an update for the annual report for that. If there's anything you want me to include in that, send me an email if you would, please.
Okay.
The second thing I will report is that I attended a meeting of the City of Menominee planning. I don't know the real title of it. It's the planning, that's the 20-year plan for sewer for the City of Menominee, and where the part of the Lake District is included in that whole thing. Now, realistically, are they ever going to get out to town of Tainter? It's the predominantly on the east side of the lake, but it would go up to probably, I think it goes up to Double B, as Double B cuts across to B and then all the way back to the city. And there was a real good discussion. I didn't have a lot to add to it. Town of Tainter and Town of Sherman were also included in that. They didn't have a lot to add, but just so that you know, we were invited to attend that. And so, but I don't have a whole lot to do with the planning of, or anything, or bringing up anything. And we certainly don't want to tackle to be in a part of a sewer district or start our own wastewater sewer district. Okay,
And I attended the Alliance of Dunn County meeting last week. They wanted to learn more about our fish stocking program that will be coming up this fall. And I gave them as much information as I possibly could on it. One of the members wanted to speak to other groups on our behalf about it, so I was more than happy to give them the information we had. The Alliance group is an amalgamation of not all, but many conservation and sporting groups in the county. And it's a really good meeting. There are a lot of good contacts there, so I'm glad I went. The other thing is, Chuck and I met with Casey Yalali, our DNR fish biologist, on Friday to discuss other possible means to remove carp. It was a good meeting. She gave us some good information, and I left with a good feeling. I think probably Chuck did too.
Yeah.
That's it.
Just have one thing, got a donation for $100 from Joe and Lori Shervy. So I'll get that grant.
we, thank you, Joe. Oh, yeah?
I was giving my garage code away.
Yeah, Elk Point had fireworks and then Mother Nature put on a real show to outpace them a little bit there.
No, I got to the big lake and saw a big bolt of lightning and turned around and went back to the little lake. Okay, thank you, Joe. And if you want, if you stay for the whole meeting, we'll get a picture. Okay, so I can, okay, you sure? Positive? I can't even guilt you into it? Okay, we'll put you down though as a donor. And I think we have different classes of donors too, and so we'll make sure that you get adequate recognition for that then. Thank you. Anything else with the communication? Okay, treasurer's report?
Okay, I emailed out the year-to-date income statement this afternoon. Not a lot of changes this month. The only thing really going in or out of the checking account for July so far has been, we had a couple more cart bounty checks get cash, so Tyler Knudsen and another guy for $8. So there's $80 total there, and then the $300 that we decided to give to Elk Point for the use of their landing, they cashed that check as well. And we haven't actually put any deposited any other private donations yet, but the $100 from Shervy's, and then Dustin Shackleton just wrote me a check. I just haven't had a chance to put it in, but he donated $1,000 towards basically startup money for our fundraiser on September 20th. So last month we asked for $2,000 to spend of the fundraise money to help start that up. He gave $1,000 to kind of go towards that. We had one bill come out of there for that September 20th fundraiser. So like the reason why we need the seed money is Jane Pierzino was able to score us a heck of a deal with Rock and Roll to Go to come and bring in all their like sound and all of that, some tables and chairs, and it was $150. I think it would have normally been like $800, but Jane knows the owner of Rock and Roll to Go pretty good, so she got a heck of a deal for us.
Cool.
So that summarizes kind of everything that's gone in and out of the accounts. Checking account balance as of today was $46,201.35. And the savings account balance is $14,344.45.
45 cents?
45, yep.
Thank you.
Good, thank you. Any other questions that we have of Grant? Okay, if there are no questions, I would entertain a motion to approve the treasurer's report for the month of July.
Make a motion.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Between Adam and Chuck on the second. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Committee reports and updates, sedimentation.
No news, fortunately.
Okay, Adam, I have a discussion on the weed harvesting later on. Is there any committee things that you want to talk about? Okay. Strategic planning, I am, as we speak, I am writing for our reimbursement. And, so all I have to do is put together the pay stubs and things like that. And then I think I'm up to reimbursing, I think I was at about $3,100 when I left today. So out of the 5,000 that we had budgeted for, we'll get at least 3,200 back. So Jim, slow and awake.
Most of the stuff I'm talking about will be later on in the agenda, but
Okay,
in case anybody was interested, the sheriff's department is going to make regular reports to our committee about their law enforcement and patrol activities. In June, they had 49 hours of water patrol, 23 spent on Tainter Lake. They had a complaint related to reckless driving of jet skis in the main lake area. A citation was issued for no PFD on a vessel. 7 warnings were issued. And then, of course, there was the water rescue up on the Red Cedar River with the kayakers who got in over their heads, so to speak. 4th of July weekend, there was 40 hours of water patrol. 21 of those were on Tainter. 3 citations were issued, no boater safety. And as Bob pointed out to me, you need to take a boater safety class if you are under 39 years of age on a body of water to operate a boat in the state of Wisconsin. So if you are younger than that, you best get that or you're going to get a citation if they stop you. There was a slow no wake violation for that they issued a citation and another PFD, no PFD on a vessel. 8 warnings were issued. There weren't any OWIs, no accidents. There were actually no citizen complaints, which was interesting, or calls for service specific to Tainter Lake. This is during 4th of July weekend. They were actually unable to provide boat coverage on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday due to staffing limitations. It's still in the county's budget or being considered to support a full-time recreational officer. So if you know someone who's on the county board and want to lobby them to support that before it gets removed again from the budget, I suggest you contact them before they remove it. And I'll have more on the slow no wake stuff and survey later on.
thank you, Jim.
What was the position called, Jim? A full-time
Recreational officer.
recreation?
So that person would not just be water patrol, it'd be, UTV and
Snowmobile also.
snowmobile, the whole 9 yards. And it's not fully funded by the county. I think it's like 50% would be funded by the DNR, but the county has to still put up the 50% in order for the DNR to fund the remaining balance of it. At least that was last time I was on, when I was on the county board, when we were considering that position. So
Excuse me.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Um,
Al, I'm not on there, but can I talk?
yes, go ahead.
Just a kind of recap of our first town hall meeting on Monday, the last Monday at 5 p.m. Tainter Town Hall. We had 33 guests. I think you know the presentations that we had. I did something a little different. We held them to 2 minute comments or questions. And I think it went pretty good. One person became upset with that process and stormed out and slammed the door at 6:05 PM. But after that, while we always weren't in agreement, everyone listened attentively and respected everybody else's opinions. I think it was a good meeting. We finished on a positive note. Just to let all of you know that did meet some resistance on the muskie stocking program. Four people were very
Passionate.
passionate, thank you, about not stocking muskies. So that I'm sure is going to come up at our annual meeting again. So, and I'm sure it'll come up at my Saturday meeting again. And I talked to Tom a little bit, and he gave me some more heads up on what to say. But these people are very passionate, and I don't know if I can sway them. And again, Saturday, 9 a.m., we have the second town hall meeting, and I expect more than 33. Thank you.
You mind, Grant, did you have anything with fundraising?
Yeah, not a lot to report. Jane and I got together earlier this week to just keep moving things forward towards that September 20th fundraiser. All the tickets are getting printed and we should have them ready before the annual meeting. So I'm kind of planning on just having like a little table there while people are either waiting to get registered or after they register, have all that information available. If people want to buy raffle tickets at that time, they sure can. If you want to take some books to try to go sell to others, we'll have that whole system kind of spelled out on how to do that. And then actually Joe emailed me earlier this week asking if there was a need for volunteers for set up and tear down, that kind of thing, which I'm sure there's going to be. I just want a chance to talk to Nikki and Sarah at Elk Point to see when exactly they would let us set up and, you know, how soon after the event we got to get everything torn down so I can give everybody who's willing to help kind of a day and a time to be there to help. Other than that, you know, we were able to secure some pretty nice raffle prizes from Donkey Docs kicked in some nice stuff. Ace Hardware was able to work out a pretty good deal on like a Blackstone grill that'll be the main prize. And so, yeah, it's coming together. We should have some one-page flyers here ready pretty soon and those raffle tickets ready. So making progress and keep you guys updated.
Good. Thank you.
fantastic.
Anything else? Okay, moving on. Discussion of annual meeting, plans, procedures, whatnot. On my checklist, I'm pretty far down the list. I have, obviously, in May already, I had reserved the auditorium. I met with the school district staff, lined it up. Jim, the technology is the same as it was last year. That hasn't changed.
I don't even remember what it was.
Microphones and I think you brought your camera if you wanted to record that, but that's up to you. The mailer was completed and sent out after our last meeting. Grant, you should have gotten a bill from L&M.
Yep, I have that and I didn't write the check yet, so I'll
Do that after the meeting then if you
Yep.
could.
Yep, I'll have it ready.
Right away. Because the last 2 years they've had to call me.
Yeah, I see that we need to get it paid, so we'll get it
Well-
paid right away.
Yeah, well, it just sat in the post office box and it was just one of those things. The meeting has been posted in the messenger. It's a class 2 posting, which means that the agenda and the budget will be posted twice. I have to do ballots. My wife is doing the registration materials. Okay? So that headache is off of our plate. And she is Mrs. Registration, so, she's on it. I think one of the, speaking of registration, one of the changes were, trusts were the thing that screwed people up last year, because, when you put them in a township, like my trust, you would think, I have some land in a trust, you'd think it was Brown Irrevocable Trust. Well, it's the AWGL Irrevocable Trust. And sometimes it comes under, it's alphabetized in the township under T for trust. For their last name first, it's really weird. And so what we're going to do is pull all of the trusts out. And I'm kind of leaving it up to her how she wants to do it, but I think the last she told me was that there'll be a trust table, but everybody else will have a trust as a part of their packet, so that if you go there and I go there thinking it's under Al Brown, the first thing that the people have to say is it a trust or not? See what I'm saying? And so some people showed up and they didn't even know it was listed underneath the trust. And so she's got that all handled and when we get to the point where we get volunteers, the we'll have the volunteers come a half hour early and then she'll kind of run through instructions on that. And I think we can get it down to move smoother. The other thing is, based on feedback from last year, we are starting at exactly 9 o'clock. Last year I waited 10
Oh.
minutes because people were still being, and I caught heck for that. So we're starting at 9 o'clock.
It's at 10.
Huh?
We haven't changed it. It's still at 10.
No, it's at 9. We changed it at the last meeting. They changed it at
The
9.
flyer
Well, that was
says,
gone.
Yeah,
yeah. Yeah, the flyer that got mailed out says 9.
Yeah.
Sitting on
Yeah.
our desk at home, so.
yeah.
Yes,
That
it
was,
wasn't.
yeah.
All right, so check-in will start at 8.
Check-in will start in at 8.
Yep, I got the flyer right here. That's what it says. Check-in at 8, registration at 9.
Thank you.
Bada boom, bada bing. So, volunteers, we have to, project explanations. I think I got everybody's, project explanation to put in the, into the, presentation. You can see, I took those and kind of rewrote that, and you can look at that on the mailer. So I got those. Lineup greeters. Last year Chuck, you and Pete did that. Are you
Yeah.
good with that or?
I can take it, yeah.
Okay,
How many do you need?
2 per table. My wife will be one, so she's already there.
Suzanne will be one.
Huh?
How many tables we gonna have?
4,
Okay, so
8. And you're already
7, right?
6 because Suzanne will,
Okay,
so you're down to 6.
okay, I'll take care of it. And you want them here at 8:30, right?
7:30.
7:30. Oh,
Yeah.
you're right. Okay, got it.
You're down to,
Bob? Okay.
Yeah. you're down to 5.
Thanks, Bob.
So, and I bet you if you call Pete Pete makes a good greeter.
Oh, yeah.
He likes the schmooze and he knows everybody, so that would be a suggestion I would throw out.
Oh,
Okay? We need color 3x5 cards, pens and pencils. That's it.
I'll get the colored cards.
I think I have a box of pens and pencils, so
I do too.
if you want to look through your junk drawer and find a handful of pencils, sharpen them up and bring them. Oh, and I'll do the ballots too, by the way. The other thing that I was thinking, I'm gonna make I was thinking about doing it on the back of the ballot, but they gotta turn it in. I may make just some slips of paper with a QR code for the newsletter. And then just give that to people. And while they're waiting for the meeting to start, they can register for the newsletter. But that's the other thing. That's all I have. I'm going back on the 31st to make sure that my Apple works with their projector because Apples don't always play nice with stuff, so I'm gonna make sure that happens.
I'll bring my laptop as a backup.
Okay, I probably will take that presentation and download it on my old HP just to make sure that I have it, Jim, so. If you're gonna have it there, why don't I just email you the presentation and you can put it on there then? Okay? And I told them that they had to have does yours have an HDMI port on it? Good. All right, so that takes care of that. That's about it. Then we're all set. Okay? Anything else that we need to talk about by duties, volunteers, registration documents? Any other suggestions, comments?
Well, I think that covers it.
Okay, well, I'm not gonna beat a dead horse then. Moving on, you're up. Adam?
Oh yeah, just summarizing the aquatic vegetation project phase one that started July 11th. Spent did quite a few emails to Tyler and Alex and Casey at the DNR 2 and 3 weeks prior, trying to get them out, especially the week of June 23rd, because that was our initial harvest date, which they pushed back because of habitat concerns. My perspective was there's quite a bit of habitat on June 23rd. Anyways, never heard anything from them. On July 3rd, I got an email from Tyler Mesalk. He basically cut our harvesting permit in half again, and altered our maps. I know I sent that to you. But there was plenty of vegetation to harvest. Aquatic Plant Management showed up on the morning of July 11th. Jim has a few photos of the harvesting project. They basically did 12-hour days, Monday through Friday. Hauled out at Elk Point. They pulled or cut 12,400 cubic feet of vegetation. Probably the most beneficial area was the Western Bay and the Hay River. We started there. They were completely restricted from getting their boats in and out of that bay. Here's the harvester loaded, offloading at Elk Point. That's in Hay River Bay, kind of when he's getting started. I can keep clicking through here. I believe this is one of the navigational channels made in the Western Hay River Bay. So a lot of the navigation improvement was in the north of the High Bridge. And then this is Eastern Hay River Bay. And then south and north shores of Eastern Tainter. And then on Friday, they went to the lower end and worked a little bit. So this is the north shore of Tainter. And actually, the harvesting kind of changed to the flow of current and brought it closer to shore after he cut the vegetation out of there. And it seems to be keeping things open and following that north shore all the way to the Hay River Channel right now. So, I think it would have been beneficial to start earlier. It would have probably been more productive, or we could have covered more space. I'm expecting this big uproot, and here's a photo of that. This is last year, August 5th. And so if we get some winds, probably, in early August, mid-August, that I think we're gonna see this big vegetation uproot. And that's a photo of it from last year. And if that's the case, I think that's gonna be the target of the August 11th harvest. So we'll see what happens. I think the DNR kind of contradicts themselves when they say we can't cut this vegetation, but then it's in the soft sediment soil and we get winds and it just blows away completely, root and all. That's what we've seen the last few years. And it's pretty frustrating when you go on other Lake District Facebook pages and Lake Association Facebook pages in our watershed and see them with harvesters buried all the way down on May 4th and May 15th. And for some reason, we seem to get some extra special attention from the Wisconsin DNR. So I'm going to continue to work on that for next year and expand our permit area and push those dates forward, and we'll see what happens. So, and then with
Here's actual video.
oh, there we go. Sure. So that's the offloading process, and then the trailer has a conveyor as well. So
I just happened to be putting my boat in at the time.
so
Waiting to put your boat in
Yeah,
at the time.
no, boat's in the water.
Is it?
You can see the yellow part of it sticking out.
Oh, yeah, there.
I don't know how many comments other people received, but I know of one couple that approached me and said they were thrilled with the job that was done near their house. So,
yeah, I mean, it just would be, I could see us justifying, you look at Rice Lake, they have 3 harvesters going all summer long. Well, their whole entire city's in their Lake District, and it's a big budget, and you go on Chautauqua's Facebook page and they're begging for volunteers to run their skimmer, and all these districts and associations around the state are struggling to staff the things, and it's not an easy piece of equipment to run. It's like 35 feet long and there's a little to it. And so I think that's the other problem is that districts running, you get 15 different people running a piece of equipment like that, you're gonna have some trouble. So. So that they pushed it back for concern with habitat or spawning and rearing habitat. And then they cut it back just because they basically said it wasn't a navigational impairment at that time. But 2 weeks later, the scene was different. Yeah. So we had to kind of work around that a little bit, but they'll have a pretty fancy report for us with, mapping and stuff like that of areas they harvested. And then, they'll be back in a few weeks and kind of the same plan, but we'll see if it's floating stuff or plant matter like the last time. So,
Yeah, I spent all of July 3rd morning pitchforking uprooted weeds that had blown into my dock, and it was holding duckweed so tight that there was no way it was going to get out. So I'm guessing I probably moved about 350 pounds of seaweed that morning into 3 different big piles. I know it's happened to Chuck before at his place. I just got the drew the wrong straw this year. I caught my dock instead of Chuck's.
I pushed it all year long.
That's right. But it's disappointing that there's not consistency from the DNR from lake to lake on that. And I hope it's just a thing that's because we're just getting started and that over time they'll be able to project the weed growth a little bit better, but it's getting to be a pretty consistent trend now. And it's taking more of the upper part of the lake every year. So I don't know what we have to do or what makes us different, why we're being treated like the redhead stepchild or whatever. And Chautauqua and Rice Lake are free to do what they please.
I guess the only theory that I had is Tyler was kind of pushing us to buy our own equipment. And Chautauqua and Rice Lake have their own equipment and their own crews and everything. So,
Yeah, I don't know really where that perspective comes from or what it is to them.
I would guess it's probably more, because we're provisional. They're going to be a little more restrictive with us being provisional and first timers.
Yeah.
And like you say, it's better to be stringent at the beginning, and then loosen it up, because it's always harder to tighten it up.
If that's the thought process, I guess I can understand that, but then we just need to figure out how to take the next proper steps to open things up. So, I mean,
Well, that's kind of one of the other discussions that after the annual meeting that we'll have is the vegetation management plan. And Adam hasn't gone into it, but Adam and I have had some discussions on that, and we have a draft of how we're going to approach that right now, but it's just a little premature to start talking about it at a board meeting.
Yep.
But we have the outline of a plan. And it's pretty sparse, but it's still an outline in the direction.
Plan for the plan.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else on, I know there were some comments I had one email. I would, again, Chuck, I don't know if in your group, you're talking about the harvesting process, or these, weed chunks that break loose and float around. I know that we had an email, with, and I had some pictures. It was on the info thing that, somebody had, some of those clumps had broken loose and somebody had put them up, and they were saying, well, you're harvesting, you got all this stuff floating around. Well, we hadn't even started harvesting yet.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, the tough thing is I get calls or emails from people, even neighbors that want us to go down and pick up, 50 square feet of duckweed in front of their dock. And I have to explain to them, number one, we can't pick up the duckweed because it all falls out in the processing along with the water. And the second thing is, unless you have weeds growing in your area and it's on an approved DNR list, we're not going to be able to get them.
yeah. So I think there needs to be an education component, is my point.
And then there was quite a bit of uprooting just because of a lot of current, like we had a lot of rain, and so that
Right.
moved some plants around. And kind of the other perspective is like the project is better than it looks. There's a lot more navigation along these shores and a lot more fishable water. And then it's hard to see some of the alleys or lanes because of the duckweed floating in there, but I've been kind of running through them on occasion with my boat to keep
Move it
them
along.
moving, just to keep them visible so people see them.
Okay,
And then I believe we made access to every dock that was 3 feet deep that was impaired, like had navigational impairment. So,
okay,
and if they're under 3 feet of water, we can't go in there. The DNR won't let us harvest less than 3 feet of water. So.
okay. Alrighty, any other questions of Adam?
I talked to the dude that was doing the harvesting, and he just said that he wasn't sure why they weren't cutting deeper. And I said, I didn't know. And so I just thought of that. So I thought I'd ask you, probably is a DNR type of thing, as far as that they can't, because he said where they cut before, they cut all the way down.
Yeah, so a couple things is that you can only cut half the water column. So if you're in
Mm.
6 feet of water, you can cut 3. If you're in 4 feet of water, you can cut 2. He knows that. But when he started, he did like a 2 foot cut everywhere because I wanted to make sure that he covered everywhere. And so he covered everywhere in probably the first 2 days, and then he went back to those areas and ran deeper.
Gotcha.
So, but we didn't want to cut one bay as deep as we could and have this slow cut
Yeah,
and not get to other areas. And then the other, problem is I think only 45% of the time the cutter is running. 55% of the time is transport time. And they have some outboards on the harvester, but they just put them on, and I think they put them on for our project, and there was some engineering flaws where the thing was subbing when they.
great.
So it's back to the drawing board. So we're hoping those are in play for the next harvest as well. But it's the first time that company has tried that and to speed up their machine, and they've got some trim angles and motor height to figure out.
We almost sunk a really expensive weed
Yeah.
harvester. That would have been some entertainment at least.
Kind of like a front-loaded pontoon or something.
Yeah.
Did you say they cut down on Lower Tainter?
Yeah, on Friday. So on Friday morning,
Where'd they cut?
from like around the Big Island on the east side of it. So we did have a channel planned all the way through that, and that's one of the things that got cut off
Oh,
by
they,
the DNR. And then the reason is there were no riparians in there. Well, I don't think they actually went there because there's like a new house in there and stuff.
Yeah.
And so I did get Tyler on the phone to expand that area, but he still wouldn't let us do the full loop. He would only let us go in from the east to the property, that new home.
okay.
So they kind of ran from the east to west, but not all the way through.
So it would seem to me if,
Oh my God.
if they took out some of that vegetation, there'd be a lot better flow and there wouldn't be so much silting in of that.
Right, yeah. As you saw, that was on the permit.
Yeah.
And then you probably saw the alteration of the permit, and that just had that little red circle.
Okay.
And then that was one thing I did get them on the phone and get some expansion with, but it's a lot of back and forth and,
Okay.
so.
All right.
And then they took out at Clay's then, and then they packed out of Clay's, because I don't think they could have pulled their harvester out of the Elk Point ramp, because it was pretty sporty getting it in there.
Oh,
Just
really?
because there's a big power loading hole and short ramp there, so.
Okay. All right. Um, anything else? Thank you, Adam. Jim, voting, well, first let me say there is no action to be taken, so we can move on to the next item. Vote,
Oh, yeah, you missed that.
you know, what I did is I'm looking at a different agenda. Yeah, thank you. Grant, you want to talk about the audit committee?
Sure.
I'm gonna,
We met at the public library. I'm not gonna remember the date off the top of my head. 2 weeks ago, maybe?
Yeah.
The 8th. And went through everything on the year-to-date income statement. Just basically had Al and Tom and Jackie just look at any of the expenses or any of the incomes and verify that they were accurate, which we were able to do. And there was no problems there. The one thing we got talking about that I think would be a really good idea to do would be to make our fiscal year from January 1st to December 31st. And 2 years ago when I started being the treasurer, I thought I had this genius idea of making the fiscal year August through July. So then we'd show up at the annual meeting and have a full year's worth of information for everybody. But as we've gotten into it, pretty much all of our projects that we do are seasonal work in the summertime. And so like this weed harvesting is a great example. We're not gonna pay the bill for this weed harvesting until next fiscal year the way we have it right now, because that bill probably won't come due till, let's say, end of August or September. So that's gonna push that into the next fiscal year. Which at the end of the day, you end up spending the same amount of money. It doesn't make anything more expensive or less expensive. It's just when you look at the financial reporting, projects from 24-25's budget are gonna get paid in the 25-26 fiscal year. So it just makes it a little bit harder for the public probably to interpret. And I think by just going back to the, January through December, we're gonna catch all of our tax levy payments, cause those come January, February, April and August. And we'll have basically all of our projects will have been concluded by December of every year. So whether it be the fish stocking, the vegetation, harvesting, you know, a lot of the times we're gonna be paying those bills at the end of the summer or in the fall sometime. So I guess as we kind of talked about it, Jackie brought up a great idea, and it would just be to take this fiscal year and basically run it through year end. So it would create a year that would go from August of 24 through December of 25, and then start the next fiscal year in January to get us back on that rotation. I guess as I've thought about it since me, I think that's what we should do, just to get to that new fiscal calendar as quickly as we can. So I might be forgetting something about the audit meeting that I should have addressed, but that was my main takeaway from it.
Jackie or Tom, did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, nothing for me.
Yeah, I think the only thing that will then, the only thing that will then be interesting is getting the budget to match that and when we need to have
Right.
that submitted, since we just submitted the next year's.
Right. Yeah, and from a reporting end, it isn't gonna change anything on how we report it out at the annual meeting. The other recommendation of the group was to have a professional audit done.
Yes.
And there was two recommendations. And one was to change the calendar year. The second one was to have a professional audit. And that dollars for that is in the budget for next year. So then that would square up all of the stuff that we have. We wouldn't have to have an audit committee. And then so for they would audit our books and square that, all that stuff away. And so then we would, and because we're applying, we're getting reimbursement from a grant. It's good to have that, for the state also.
Yeah, I like the professional audit. Maybe it doesn't have to be every year because they're a little bit expensive, but at least every couple of years. I mean, I just really, really want to be transparent with how the money's being coming in and going out. And just to make just another set of eyes to make sure that a mistake won't be haven't been made. You know, I think it's important that we have, you know, that we're holding ourselves to those kind of standards just to maintain the integrity of the organization and that transparency. So definitely welcome that professional audit. I think it would be a good thing to have done.
Jackie, you were saying something, do we have to adjust all of our budget figures then? Because we're carrying them 5 months longer then, or?
I guess that's up to us. I think you'd be shortening and then you need to add on to the next year.
Okay.
If we want to. But we're not gonna have another annual meeting.
Yeah, the reporting for the annual meeting would be the same. Because as it is, there's a column in there that says anticipated, because you're not really completely through. By the time the budget actually that's in the report for the annual meeting is really only up to June. Because
Got to get everything.
by the time we get the printing done and reporting done, there's a column in there that goes July and August, which is your anticipated what you have. So no matter how you do it, you always have that second column over there that says, here's what you've spent to date up to your annual meeting. And then here's what you anticipate to the end of your fiscal year. And then you would catch that up in the next year.
Which, just so everybody knows too, I think it was really good. As part of the audit we went through and we looked at budgeted amount versus dollars actually spent up to this point. And I mean, on every single line item in that budgeted amount, we're coming out either under it or right at it. Like we didn't. So I think just like last year, we're not going and blowing the budget and spending more money than what we budgeted. We're being fiscally responsible that way, which is leading to some carryover from year to year, which helps just with cash flow. So,
Yeah, I guess another note too is this will help line up those tax payments that we get to, keeping it all within 1 year.
yes, yep, exactly.
Yeah, that's another thing that the board, I don't know if you're aware, we don't get our tax payment in January. It comes in what, 3 installments and
January, February, you get the 2 first payments from each of the 4 townships. Then in April, you get the lottery tax credit, I think it is. And then in August, you get the final payment from the township. So that last payment, that last August payment is a pretty good chunk of money. I think this year it's gonna be something like it's close to $20,000, I think, that we still got coming yet. So we probably, in reality, won't have that money put in the bank until September.
Yep.
So now that shows up on next year's fiscal year, even though it was this year's money.
well, $20,000 is a third of our budget.
Yeah,
If we have a $60,000 budget,
Like,
20,000
it's a
of our
little under
revenue.
that, I think. I gotta look it up, but it's a chunk of money. So if somebody's just looking at this year-to-date income statement and being like, oh man, where did all that money come from in November? Well, it was from the year before.
Right.
And that's where getting to that, changing that fiscal year, I think will eliminate just about all of that. Everything that's the tax levy for that year is gonna show up in that fiscal year. Your projects are gonna be paid for within that fiscal year. It doesn't, at the end of the day, change the amount of money that's gonna be in your checking account or your savings account, but I just think from a reporting standpoint, it'll be a much cleaner way to do it for the public to be able to understand. So,
Okay. I put down for the audit or for the August meeting, an agenda item is to take board action on the changing from our current fiscal year to a calendar year. And if we have time, if somebody has time to call, you had a recommendation of somebody to call. If somebody would call them to see if they'd be interested, we could at least have a discussion on that. If not taking, I don't think we need to take any action. But I mean, if you can get it put together and we can take action, that's fine. I just know that August, we're getting into latter July, August, we got vacation schedules and things like that, and it's kind of hard to get things done. So, but there's a placeholder for it. Anything else on the audit committee and the findings and recommendations?
Yeah, I'll take the action to contact, it was Dana that we had talked about and see if he can give me a ballpark price and
Yep.
how much time it would take or what he would need from us.
Okay. All right, good, thank you. Jim, now you're up. Now I'm on the right version of the agenda.
All right, the Boating and Safety Committee is considering changes to the current slow no wake ordinance based on some community feedback and some opinions of people that are on the committee. So rather than kind of jump into it with just kind of committee ideas, we decided to do a survey since we have the Survey Monkey subscription through the rest of the year, so we might as well take advantage of it. So I will share a little bit of the survey, but I'm gonna post this and make it available on the website so that people can see it as well. But I'll just kind of go through some of the things that we discovered. And I'm going to preface this by saying I'm not an official survey taker. We designed the questions kind of based on committee recommendations, tried to keep it as evenly balanced as possible. I didn't realize that there are things to prevent double voting on the Survey Monkey until after we'd had it out there for a while. But having gone through it, and it does it by IP address, it was pretty obvious there, and there was not a lot of stuffing the ballot box. There were a few that were obviously the same answers and were repeats. I actually deleted those. But, you have married couples or, households that are taking the same survey, they're gonna have the same IP address.
Right.
So, and it was obvious that you had some, I'm assuming couples or whatever, that had very different opinions about expansion or not expansion. So, but they had the same IP address. So it was, so there was some filtering. So we actually had 282 people respond to the survey. Um, Most lived on the lake or had, there's 30% about that had property on the channel. There's some that had neither. We didn't really limit it to people who don't, there's a lot of people that use the lake and they're gonna have an opinion by it. Again, I'll share this. I won't go through the entire thing. And so the keeping things the way they are, making no changes to the slow no wake area was right around about 45% of the survey respondents. This isn't gonna add up exactly because we had this, they could select more than one. So it was like expand the slow no wake area, south of Jake's, expand it, to include what we're calling the bubble, which is north of Jake's, expand both areas, and again, keeping things the same. We had questions about erosion from boats, if people have experienced, damage to their conditions, poor safety conditions. Those are about 50-50, how people use the lake. And again, we try to keep this balance. So if you're in favor of expanding the slow no wake zone, what's the reason? We gave that some multiple choices, then they could choose more than one. If you're not in favor of expanding, again, we gave them 4 choices for that. And what was interesting was like, for that, the time it takes to get through the channel was the number one response on that. We had a really long question, which just was a cut and paste from the DNR guidelines about understanding what a slow no wake rule is. Most people said yes. I think they're lying, but that's what they selected. And then we had some things as far as how people could provide a monetary donation, volunteering time, help with fundraising, and a fair number of respondents, about roughly a third, responded to those. Then I think the most interesting thing, there was like at least 120 comments, and there are lots of comments about expanding, not expanding, complaints about the survey, and is a whole variety of different opinions. So, and again, I'll share this and you guys can read through this because it's kind of interesting, and it just kind of reflects the wide variety of comments. So, as a committee, we really want to have the opinion of Pete Wetzel from the DNR, who basically is part of that approval process, that any change to where the existing slow no wake zones in the waterway buoys have to get placed. He is unfortunately on an extended vacation and is not responding to his email. But the thing that I wanted to do was to make sure that some of these areas that we're considering are even something that, should we propose this and have the open, and this is a process for those like Jackie, you haven't been on the board, you may not be involved, know how the process worked. This was for the Lake District to have this ordinance was about a 2 year or more process and was pretty extensive, and it had to go through a whole lot of stuff, including a public hearing, taking comments, and then it all had to meet DNR approval, and so we would have an ordinance. Now, we have the ordinance. The ordinance isn't going to change. The only thing that we might then go to the DNR for, based on this board's approval of that, when we get to that point, would be changing where the waterway buoys are located. So before we made that recommendation to this body, really wanted to have the sign off on, from the DNR, on whether any of these proposed areas could even be considered. So this is, and I can share this map as well. And this is kind of what I shared with, this took hours to produce this, by the way. So I took the GIS maps and zoomed in enough so you could see where all the markings are. And it's really hard for you guys all to see over on that side. But you can watch the video later. So you can see where the current buoys are. This is where the current ones are located. And this is control area 2 is the one at the upper end of the channel. This is what we've been calling the bubble. This is currently a non-control area. And I think, Al, your wife, Gail, mentioned it's like 0.2 miles or some really small amount. And those of you who have driven through here, you know that some people will just gun it. And almost as soon as they get up, they probably don't even get up on plane, depending on the size of the boat, before they have to ramp back down. And that makes a whole bunch of waves. So it was unanimous with our committee that we feel that this should just be an extended slow no wake area through here. Less confusion, makes the most sense. There are jet skis that go through here. You can see they have to be about 200 feet anyway from here. So literally a jet ski could only probably legally be up zooming in a tiny little section in the middle of that bubble. That's it. Our committee thinks let's get rid of that and prevent that. And then you can see the existing area that is currently there again in yellow. Then one of the things we talked about as a committee was potentially having another slow no wake buoy right across from the landing across from Jake's, because then as people put in here, they'll see there's a buoy right there. They may ignore the signs, but they'll see that buoy there. That's again a question for the DNR, whether that would be a possibility. Then this is where the current slow no wake area stops. There's some difference of opinion on the committee. We had a committee member, who I won't name, just said they thought that this should be a spot. We had another couple of committee members thought this should be where it should be extended to, as far as possibilities. I'm kind of neutral on the whole thing, but I wanted to get the DNR's impression as to whether that would be something that would be necessarily approved. And again, there's like 2 markers here, because we would do what we're doing here. We would have an entrance to the slow no wake zone that would be a pair of markers. And this would then, at that point, go from 2 to 1, so that you wouldn't need 2 there. So it'd be the entrance. So that's a possibility. Then we also had a committee member that wants it here to go this far, or have another thing which is going to create another bubble area here. That's not the consensus of the committee, but I'm going to run it past the DNR and see what they have to say about that anyway. So my point in doing this presentation here today is to kind of give you guys, here's the background. Here's what we're talking about. We're going to make some sort of recommendation based on what the DNR says about any of these areas to this committee, and then it will be up to you whether or not we go forward with this. With a change to like a waterway application or the ordinance that is not something that needs to be voted on at the annual meeting. That is a decision of just this committee. The only thing that would need to be voted on is if this changes the budget. And the only budget changes would then be the additional cost of additional buoys in any one of these areas that you see on the map. So, you know, and we've talked about other spots in the lake. Oh, and the other thing we asked about is right here at the entrance on the lake, where you come in off the big lake, uh, whether or not the DNR would allow us to nudge those out a little bit so that instead of people running right into the channel basically and then slowing down, that they would slow down, you know, like 5-10 feet before they actually get into the channel. So we peppered in with a whole bunch of different questions, and then based on our responses that we get, we would come back and you guys collectively, this board would decide, you know, what the recommendation would be as far as changing it. The, the, the survey results, again, aren't scientific because I'm not a professional survey guy. The meetings have been fairly sympathetic toward it. However, there have been some real strong objections to making any changes, and that's because there are people that don't want any additional regulations. There are people that don't want to go any slower through the channel than they already have to. And so there is that. Again, the survey seems to be a little more in favor of change than against making any changes whatsoever to that particular area. So, and again, this map is available. This is what I sent to Pete Wetzel as far as, you know, any of these possible updates or changes and whether the DNR would even approve any of them. So, good summary, Bob. Is that about it? Okay, he was there. Questions from anybody?
I want to point at the map and then I'll come back here and ask my question. Can you scroll so we can see the bottom, the far bottom area, Jim?
I don't know if I have anything beyond.
That's all I need right there.
Okay,
Okay. This area right here. Okay,
yep,
all right, so a good portion of that is less than 400 feet across, correct?
it is all less than, no, the one area is the, on here, I've got markers. So this is right here at this part is just a little bit more than 200 feet. This narrow area right here is just a little bit more. And again, Sloan Wake area is not from the shoreline. It's from docks or structures. If someone has a 20-foot dock, it starts from there. This one area right here is just over 400 feet. And then this final narrow area here looks like it's about 300 feet from shore to shore, about there. This area here is all over 400 feet wide.
Okay, so my question is, that area that you were just pointing to in the middle there,
Yep,
a good portion of that is slow no wake zone for jet skis.
yes,
So
all of it.
currently, they should be going slow no wake through 90% of that area.
Right,
Okay, so that's not posted. They need to know that on their own though, right?
right.
It's their responsibility. So depending on the outcome of the survey, does it make sense to put cones there or buoys, I'm sorry, that address jet skis specifically?
There is no such thing.
Okay, so, but they can't claim that, well, I didn't know how far across it was.
Well, they could claim that. I mean, they could get a citation or they could just get a warning. The eventual plan is to have new signage and to also have, documentation like a brochure that goes out to especially the Airbnbs in the area and stuff like that. But when the committee members who really wanted to make a change decided to push this forward, all of that got put on hold because there's no point in doing signs or brochures if we're going to make a change.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with necessarily the urgency of it.
Mm-hmm.
I want to eliminate confusion. And I live in an area near there where there are jet skis that are clearly way closer than 200 feet to the shoreline, going very fast. And I haven't said anything to any of them. I pretty much know where they park.
Yeah,
Um,
education is a problem because during our last meeting, I watched jet ski after jet ski go past my dock and wash up a whole pile of floating weed
Right.
on the dock when my dock sits high enough that they had a good wave going, and plenty of boats that do it too that are well within 100 feet. If I can't see a boat from my backyard because I'm up 50 feet, that means they're too close because they're so.
I guess my question, my comment would be that is something to be considered in the long run.
Right.
When the dust settles.
I mean, my own personal opinion is that the current placement at the lower end seems arbitrary because when you're boating through there, you don't know if it's 200 feet across or 300 feet or whatever. You just know you're in the channel. So it seems to me it should be marked through the channel because it makes the most sense. As far as 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 far as having that marked at all. It seems like the current placement is feels arbitrary that you're cruising through the channel and suddenly you see buoys and have to slow down. Again, the lower end down there at Pine Point was not the overall consensus of the committee, but I'm asking the DNR anyway about it just to get the information.
That's 430 feet wide there. The thing people don't realize is that you're better going 30 than you are 15. And so when you stop and start, that's when you have your big waves.
Yep.
It's not some fast boat going 35 miles an hour. It's a small wave.
Yep.
So people get confused with speed and wakes. Well, actually, if you're concerned about wave erosion, faster the better.
Yeah.
So if you stop them again there and start them again there, you're gonna have more wave.
Yep, and erosion's only a part of it. It's one of the bigger things that people bring up is the safety aspect of it, is that you got boats cruising through that part of the channel at, full throttle, and you got kids out there swimming or,
It's 200 feet wide.
yeah, so,
I just think that lower end is pretty wide.
yeah,
It's
so.
way the part.
Again, it was not the consensus, so, but it's just asked, and then this part up here, even though, yeah, that is fairly wide, but what I see are a lot of the jet skis that are zooming around full, and the only legal part where they could be is a little tiny little portion right in the middle of that part of the bubble. And it's, you know, it's probably worth it to just have it be a single control area instead of having that bubble. So, and that was, like I said, that was the unanimous consensus on the committee.
Other questions?
And again, I'm not asking for anything yet, because the committee has agreed that it's really, we're not going to recommend anything that the DNR isn't going to approve. If they say that, you know, any of these are, you know, they may even say, listen, you guys just pass this and we don't want you to do anything for 2 years. I don't know. I mean, that could be the thing. So, again, brought it up because there are members on the committee that wanted to go forward and do something right away. So that's what we're doing. So, but again, it will be driven, I think, by the DNR. So potentially at our next meeting, next full board meeting, you may be asked then to render a decision on whatever we recommend at that point. But that's why we're doing the presentation now, is so you guys can ruminate on it.
So does this get voted on the annual meeting?
Nope.
No, it's just up.
The only thing that gets, yeah, anything having to do with an ordinance, and even when we passed the ordinance, did not have to be voted on not according to state statute. However, especially when we took on the ordinance, there were budgetary concerns that did need to be voted on, or at least the way we are approaching things, we're breaking out stuff out of the budget. So, so any monetary portion would be potentially, you know, voted on, if it's a big expense at the annual meeting, but changes to an ordinance and that stuff, no. But that's why we wanted to do the survey too.
Would you take a short technical comment?
Sure, technical.
Okay, I just wanted to mention that it was also the consensus of the committee that we wouldn't make any changes to the Hay River configuration.
Yes,
Well, that makes sense.
at least not at this point. So there would be no point, so. But it has come up. Some people have said that, you know, people are cruising up to that one too quickly and what have you, but.
So if we do extend it, do we need to increase our budget for buoys?
I haven't gotten to that point yet because we don't know how many buoys, depending on where it gets extended to.
But if we got donations for that, we wouldn't have to vote on the increasing the budget.
Can't count on donations.
What if we did?
Sure,
Okay.
but we can't count on donations because we have to budget. It's just like we had a budget for the strategic plan, even though we were expecting a grant, you have to still budget for it. And the ordinance is no longer like something that we can just, well, we're not going to include it now. We now own the ordinance. So we have to maintain it and take care of it. So, our committee I bring this up because it's a thorn in my side. People have said they're going to donate buoys and they want to donate buoys, and we have not had a single buoy donation. So as far as I'm concerned, we will never have a buoy donation. I'm not banking on buoy donations ever. So if it happens, great. Then we can take that money right out of the budget. So.
In answer to your question, Jackie, we have enough money in reserves that if we if everything lines up and it zips through and it gets all done and we get into next spring and oops, we're 3 buoys short, we have enough money in our reserve to cover those. That's why at the last annual meeting, we voted to have a reserve to be able to cover those kinds
10%.
of costs.
But also if, like, for example, let's say we eliminate the bubble and extend there, we got two buoys there, two buoys there. That would go down to a single buoy because it would be marking the center of the channel.
Right.
We actually then have two extra buoys at that point
Yep.
to put somewhere else.
And just a point of clarification, though, and people misinterpret, and you mentioned it, Jim, people interpret the annual meeting and why it was on the annual meeting last year and isn't on the annual meeting this year. Last year, it was a $4,000 outlay for maintenance, unexpected maintenances of buoys, attorney fees, all of those kinds of things. And this year, it's not on the project list, because it's now part of our budget. And we don't have that initial cost. And to be quite honest with you, we really wouldn't have had to put that on last year as a project per se, because it was an obligation. If we passed an ordinance, we have an obligation to maintain the equipment. But we did it in the case of a transparency. And so it usually bites us a little bit, but we're always going to err on the side of putting more stuff out there. It gets a little confusing for people because people misunderstand this board. What people misunderstand is the power of this board on day-to-day stuff. And then what's the public's, there are some people in the public that everything that we do, they want to approve at an annual meeting. Well, that's not how this works. We get those approvals. The annual meeting is to approve the budget. And in the case of just one more point about the buoy thing, it was on there because if the annual meeting didn't approve all of that money to do the buoys, then there was no use doing the ordinance because we wouldn't have had money and so you kind of play it that way. So the powers of the annual meeting, the two biggest things of the annual meeting for our group are, number one, to approve the budget and the levy and to elect the commissioners. Now, you can get into debt. I mean, that's a power of the annual meeting to incur debt. If we were to buy our own weed harvester, we'd have to have that approved at an annual meeting, those kinds of things. But that's defined, like Jim said, in statute, what the powers of the annual meeting are. It gets kind of messy in there, but I guess the best way to straighten that out in your head is if it deals with money, that's the annual meeting. Okay, as to get all the work done, that's this group. And so the reason why I went to that explanation, not that I didn't think that you guys knew it, but people watching the video, I wanted them to make sure that, because there are people that watch these meetings on the video, and I wanted to make that explanation. Because I'm going to actually start that. I've had some emails with people wanting to approve certain things at the annual meeting. It's like, no, it's not on the agenda. It's not a power of the annual meeting. So anyway.
So if this gets approved, whatever we do, if we bring a recommendation to the board at the next meeting, the next thing would be we'd have to schedule another public hearing through the DNR for people to weigh in on this with a 60-day notification for that hearing. And it would be that same whole process. This is not something that's going to get done this year, but you have to start the process this year so that it could be. We don't want to kind of get into what happened this past spring with things getting delayed and buoys not getting placed because everything kind of got backed up. So that's why, part of why this process is starting when it is now, so that should there be any changes, it can be done well ahead of time so that buoys can be placed different and that plan can be put into place.
And just for a point of clarification, the committee recommends we approve moving forward, or what is the final presentation, and the DNR makes the final approval. The only thing that we can do is we can recommend the recommendation is basically what we're doing. And so we don't do the final approval, the DNR does the final approval. The last thing I want to say about buoys is that I'd like to compliment Jim and his committee for the work that they've done. And Jim's committee is a good committee. It's made up of good people with differences of opinion. And Jim has done a really excellent job of keeping them focused and moving them in the right direction, or a direction. I don't know if it's the right direction, but it's been a direction. And he's done a really good job of that. So thank you, Jim, for that. And I know it's been at times frustrating, but keep up the good work. And you too, Bob. Sure.
So that area to the south, coming off of the lake, if that remains uncontrolled, Chuck had to speak on the wake boats. A wake boat could go up to that first buoy from the roadway.
Sure.
Legally.
Legally, yeah. Yes, indeed.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from anybody on the committee?
I will put the same language in, Jim, that says potential ordinance changes recommendations, just as a placeholder. Not that you feel that if your group isn't ready to make that recommendation, because you've been having your meetings like right up to when I've been posting them in the paper and things like that. So I'll just put it in as a placeholder.
Yep.
And if you don't have a recommendation, that's fine. We'll just move through it. Okay? Any other things on boating and safety committee? Okay, next meeting is August. That's a reorganizational meeting. I have calendar to change to a calendar year, professional audit and potential ordinance changes, are recommendations. Any other items that you want to see on that you know of now?
Just checking the date though, Al, it'll be 5 o'clock on August 21st, correct?
That's what I showed Tom.
Okay.
Okay, yep, good. Well, I got some vacation coming up in there, so, oh, by the way, when we get to the reorganization part, June of next year, I may ask you to change the meeting because unless you want to do it without me, but I'm gonna be hiking in Isle Royal, so,
We can change the meeting.
okay. If nothing, if nobody has anything else, man, we're
I'll
done.
run it.
Okay, Jim.
I mean, I think it's better to just keep it at the same
It
time.
just keeps it
So-
short that
Go
way.
for it.
Yeah, I will try to do my Jerry Porter best to do a 20-minute meeting.
38 minutes, man, that's his record.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
All right. Recommend,
I make a motion to adjourn.
that's what I need. Second? Motion second, we are adjourned.